Bang! Neeves Knives, I'm Jared. Today we're checking out some new knives, and the first one we're going to start off with is a Blade Binge exclusive with NAFS. This is the Lander. Now, the exclusive obviously has the Blade Binge colors, which is teal and black. I do like the color combination. I love me a spear point blade. It is a compact knife. I still can get a full 4-finger grip, so that is the one beautiful thing about this. And now it has a crossbar lock, which makes this, a nice strong locking system for a small compact knife. And it does have steel liners with weight relieving, but the steel liners are going to increase the toughness. Rock solid lockup. Got to give them credit for that. Very, very good lockup. And the action is very, very smooth. You can tell it is on bearings. Thumb studs are pretty easy to get to. Oh, by the way, 20 CV steel. Should have said that right off the bat, right? 20 CV steel. Great steel, great corrosion resistance, great edge retention. As long as it's being heat treated well, it has really good edge retention. Companies do struggle with it a little bit more than other steels, but it seems that there's, a bunch of companies that are using it and are very popular with their brand, seem to be doing it better than they used to. Anyways, blacked out blade with a flat grind. It has decent geometry, not bad. It's not super thin, but it's also not thick. The handle, the width or the height, how broad it is, a decent amount of thickness, slightly contoured, deep carry clip that's inside with flat screws and reversible, which is good because this is an ambidextrous knife. So you'd want it to have both right and left-handed options. All in all, it's a cool knife. It's very well done. But I will be honest though, it's not my style personally. I'm not the biggest fan, and I love Ben Peterson, the owner of NAFS. I think he's a great dude, and I like his other designs. This is just one that's not for me. It doesn't speak to me. It is a little bit too plain for me, which I know he likes. So that that's cool, and a lot of people do, and I do too from time to time. Actually, a lot of the times. This one's just not for me. It's a little too small for me, even though I can get a full grip. I understand, like for hikers and stuff, this would be a great knife. But for me, it's just not something I personally would be carrying. The other thing is the price. The price is pretty hefty. Prices are always subject to change, so always check the links. But at the time when I'm filming this, I think it's like 160 or 170, something like that, right? Let's say 160. And the thing is that you can get a USA made knife in Magna Cut steel for 150 with aluminum scales. So with the same locking, the Kershaw Bel Air right there. Their launch series models, you can also same thing, right around the same price, but it seems a little too overpriced. I understand Ben has to make his money and Blade Binge has to make their money. I completely get that. And I want them to make money however they can. I just personally can't see the price here. 20 CV, it's a very common steel now, even though it is a super steel. It's been out for a long time, and every company's using it, across the board. The fat carbon fiber is really cool because it is a unique color to Blade Binge, and it's not something you see everywhere. But, it's just, man, the price is just a little hefty for me. Another complaint is the sharpening tool and plunge grind could be better. You see how it has a wider bevel right there. That's because the plunge grind hits the edge. So you will absolutely, well, it already has a smile starting, but you will absolutely hit that plunge. You'll probably even hit the thicker part right here, and it will show considering it's a blacked out blade. So that is something that, I personally would just notch out, I guess. But it'd be cool if they just did it right from the factory and gave you a good plunge grind. The rock solid lockup. Love the lockup. I mean, this thing does feel very solid. The only other little negative I could say is T6s. I wish they were T8s, but there's really not a lot of bad here. I mean, it is a cool knife. I just, like I said, it's just not personally my style. Everything will be linked down in the description though. The next one actually is also a Blade Binge exclusive. This is from Crispy Donut Community. And this one's a little bit more my style as far as size and everything goes. Love the blade shape. This one is in S90V. Now, and a titanium frame lock with titanium hardware. Love the teal. Once again, you can see, the color combo for Blade Binge. The knife though, the knife being S90V with a sheep's foot blade, it has a grind that you don't typically see on pocket knives. This is a grind you typically see on hard use fixed blades, but basically the entire blade or most of the blade is the same thickness as the spine. So the thickest part of the knife is basically the whole blade, and then it goes right down to here, and you have very rapid tapering down to the edge from here to here. So that means that this is going to be a very tough blade, and the thickness behind the edge, it's going to be a little bit thicker than you typically would find, and the more you sharpen it, the thicker it will get. And that goes for any flat grind. However, with a grind like this, because it's such a narrow, just such a short grind, you know, and it doesn't have very long to taper, that it gets thicker quicker, right? The more you sharpen it, the thicker it's going to get, and it's going to rapidly thicken up. Now, that being said, utility cuts are going to be amazing with it no matter what. It's got a very pokey tip. The bevel looks relatively even. The edge is really nice. It did a good job on the sharpening. I imagine it's going to slice just fine for anybody. It's obviously not going to be the sliciest knife because of, the grind, but where you're going to lose cutting performance, you will gain some toughness. I'm not sure if that'll be relevant with a pocket knife like this, but hey, I can understand some people are a little bit tougher on their edge than others. And, this might be something a little bit more suitable for somebody that, does do a little bit tougher stuff with their edges. It's still going to slice just fine. And since it has basically a straight edge, you're going to be able to slice all the way out there to the tip without slipping out of the cut, which is really awesome. The handle being titanium has the milling, which I really, really like this milling. It feels really good in the hand. Deep carry clip. Inset with flat screws. Love to see that, but it's not reversible. I think they should have done a reversible clip because it's a straight clip, a very simple clip. It's a titanium spring deep carry clip, but it's straight, so they could have easily put it on this side. When you have a uniquely shaped clip, they typically won't go from one side to the other, so you have to make a different clip. The action, let's talk about this action. So you have a very comfortable flipper tab, well placed. You have a great leverage point on the flipper tab. And then the thumb studs also very well placed. You can get a good amount of leverage behind the thumb studs for a nice strong flick. Then you have the fuller, which you can also use, fairly well. It's not sharp, but you can use it. Then the access to the lock bars, very nice. Love the access, very comfortable disengagement, very easy to get past that detent, and it is extremely smooth on the drop. Almost falls shut. Very, very light shake, and it's all the way down. Lockup, rock solid. Good lockup. As far as negatives go, the one negative I have, same thing with the plunge grind. This one is even worse because when you sharpen it, you can already see it's wider right there already. It's going to dramatically get wider every time you sharpen it, and you're probably going to wind up hitting all the way to here with your stone when you go to sharpen it. That's why this should have been notched out quite a bit bigger so that didn't happen. But it is. So when you sharpen it, you are going to get a big smile, and if you do lower back your edge angle, your bevel will be dramatically larger. The next negative thing I will say is, and it's not really a negative, it's more of a preference, I prefer the detent to be a little stronger. It feels like a light detent, and the reason why it feels light, and it's really not light, like you can rapidly deploy it very easily, but because you have such a good amount of leverage on the flipper tab or thumb studs, it makes you want a nice strong detent for a nice crispy break. And I'm not getting that. Yes, you can rapidly open it. I don't think you're ever going to fail it, especially if you know the detent. But it's just because of the leverage point, the flipper tab being so comfortable, I would love it to have just a little bit crispier of a detent. Now, that being said, I can do that myself. Bend the lock bar in a little bit, give it a little bit more strength. I do have videos on that if you ever want to do that yourself at home. Just be careful, and remember, a little goes a far way, so you don't have to do very much to get a lot stronger of a detent. And if you go too much, you'll wind up getting lock stick. And you don't want to bend it back and forth. So you typically want to get it right the first time, or the first or second time. You can always bend it farther, but what I mean is you don't want to have to bend it back. Anyways, Other than that, I don't know the price. I'm not sure if they're available yet or when they will be available. Check the links down in the description to find out. And yeah, I don't have a ton of negatives. There's lots of milling on the inside. The weight's really good. Ergos are nice. You can choke up behind the edge. The blade shape's going to be a very functional blade shape. I like the jimping up here, you know, and it actually does work right there for utility cuts. Pinch grips are going to be great. This is going to be a great knife for EDC purposes with the blade shape and everything. Like I said, not going to be the best slicer with the grind it is, but you know, that's not always the most important thing to people, even though it is a knife. Let's get to the next one. Next is the Takom. The Takom Unnamed. And here, just really quick, you can look at all the little details right there. It is available right now. And I love that they're using a T10 pivot with T8 hardware all the way around. It'd be cool if it was T10 all the way around. That's what we did with the Misdemeanor. Now, this has a damn near a full flat grind. It's not technically a full flat grind, but it feels like a full flat grind. MagnaCut steel. Hopefully 63, 64 HRC, which I'm pretty sure it would be because Bestech has been doing that lately. I believe this is a prototype. I'm not sure. I do feel a tiny, tiny hint of up and down, but it's so subtle that it doesn't worry me at all. Yeah, the ergos are really, really nice on this. You can choke up really nicely or choke back. Jimping is functional, very functional jimping. I really like this jimping. Clip point blade, almost like a clip point. It's almost like a clip point sheep's foot in a way, which actually, you know what, that's what I'm going to call it. It's a clip point sheep's foot. It has this milling that's, Kara would absolutely go crazy if she touched this. She would hate this. It's very weird. It's almost like a file. Look at that. It feels chalky, but it's not. It's the micro milling. The micro milling makes it feel like it has a very strong blasted finish, kind of like a Chris Reeves or something. Very unique feeling though in the hand. It's definitely interesting when you grab it. I don't know if I've ever felt milling like this. Titanium milled pocket clip that has lots of spring. Great clip. Love the clip. Functions really, really well. And because the micro milling running this direction, it's nice and smooth in and out of the pocket. I like this chamfer they did down the edge, you know, for when you wrap your fingers around, gives you a nice comfortable grip. The button has nice texturing on it. Love, love, love to see that. I think that is a nice little touch. It is a conventional button lock. And the detent, detent's a little light. I'll say that. I wish the detent was a little stronger. Now, you can increase button lock detents by stretching the springs on the inside of the mechanism and just making it have more tension. Not sure if that would help this one. It most likely would, but there's only so much you can do. But it is a little bit on the lighter side, I'll say that. And you can do the button flip. The hole does land in a really good spot. It is very easy to get power into your flick because it has a nice thickness. It is nice and grippy, and the hole lands in a great spot, and you have plenty of access to the hole, whether you want to slow roll it or thumb flick it. So that's really cool. It does have a titanium backspacer, and the plunge grind sharpened choil is meh. It's okay. It starts here and it ends about right there, so they do give you a couple sharpenings before you hit the plunge grind. I typically want more, but it's fine. So you're going to easily be able to sharpen it at least a few times or a bunch of times before it hits the plunge grind. On this side, it looks like you get even more. So you'll actually probably do pretty good. You'll probably be able to sharpen it for a long time without having issues. So not a big deal at all. As far as negatives go, the only real negative I have is just, you know, and it's not even that negative, is the detent strength. I wish the detent was a little bit stronger. I'm not a huge fan of the blade shape, to be honest. I do think it looks odd. I know that was probably intentional. I believe he said, yeah, the Custom Knife Factory Rotten Evo had some inspiration on this. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. I do like stuff that is different, stuff that is unique, but it's just, you know, for me personally, it's not really my style, but if you like the way it looks, it is a great knife. Another little thing that I'm not going to say is a negative, but the stop pin placement is behind the edge, and typically I warn against that, and I'm just trying to shine light to it so designers and companies know it's not a good place to put a stop in. In this case, it's fine because it's in the thicker area, and I know most likely nobody will ever sharpen all that steel out and then sharpen the steel where the stop pin hits. But a lot of companies recently have been getting them really close to the edge. Some of them have even been hitting the edge with them, which doesn't make any sense. You cannot sharpen those knives. So this one, you'll have no problem sharpening it. You have plenty of life. You're never going to run into an issue. But if you did sharpen a lot of steel out and you did want to put a choil in, you're not really going to be able to because, the stop pin's there. But, like I said, in this case, I don't think you're ever going to run into an issue with it. And the clip is great. And it's not a reversible clip, which they should have done a reversible clip considering, it's an ambidextrous knife. But anyways, I think it's pretty cool. And like I said, it is available right now. And then the last one, I've actually shown this on the channel before, but I pulled it out and I couldn't help but think like, man, this is a really good one by Sativian. The ST151, and it is... Sativian does very, very, very affordable knives. So this is probably in the $25 range, most likely. It has a beautiful grind, beautiful satin finish. Love that satin finish. Gets down to a nice thin edge. We have a clip point or a sheep's foot blade, kind of similar to what you get with the Osborne 940 from Benchmade, which has been known to be a very, very good blade shape. The tip is nice and strong, so if you are going to pick with your knife or do things with your knife, the knife's tip, you're going to be just fine. It should have no worries of chipping or breaking. It has a nice thick spine on this guy, so it actually does have a really good thin edge, so it's going to slice really good, but still be plenty tough. And the ergos with this ramp, because it has the wave feature, very, very locked in right here. Feels really good, slightly contoured, super comfortable in the hand, great access to the lock bar, super duper smooth. The flipper tab is angled up at an angle, so it is a bit pokey, but it's not like painful pokey. It's just pokey. But the leverage you have for this flipping action is amazing. Like the detent is really nice on this. It's not too strong. It's also strong though. It's a nice strong detent without being too strong. Very, very good. Love the action on this guy. And, love the drop. Super duper smooth. I can tell it is on caged bearings. And then you do have a fuller, but it's not the easiest to get to. You can do it, but you do have the hook for the wave that you can flick off of if you want, but pulling it out of the pocket, you can rapidly deploy it. So if that's important to you, I know a lot of people say like once they started using a wave, now they always pull their knife out of their pocket expecting the wave, and they tend to like opening their knife that way. Deep carry clip that is inset, but it has button screws and it's only partially inset. Because it has this groove right here. So would rather see flat screws. Sharp control and plunge grind could be better. It is. They did separate the plunge from the edge, but only barely. So I wish that was much larger or had much more distance between the end of the plunge grind and the edge. That would be a lot nicer. D2 steel, it's not the most popular steel anymore, but for a budget knife at this price, that's a phenomenal steel. Great steel for the price. Not the most corrosion resistant, but it holds a great edge, especially when it's heat treated well. Problem is it is a little finicky for companies to heat treat. I know this company is using some other steels now, but for the money, you can't go wrong. D2 is going to be just fine for the money. You're going to get typically better performance than you would see out of like 9CR or something like that, that you probably would have to pay a little bit more for. Anyways, awesome knife. Just figured I'd show you guys it really quickly once again. I don't have a lot of negatives, just the sharp control and plunge grind could be a little bit better. Button screws, and yeah, there you guys go. Work hard, stay tough. Until next time, peace.